So as I started working through this, and I kept saying to people, I'm funding a research program. That's what I'm all about. I started to think, well, what is a research program and why is that important? So this is kind of my vision of what this is all about. So these are all the projects that we did so far. Okay, and so what is that? Well, there could be some sane and rational organization to it, but you really don't know, right? It's just a collection of projects. If you were looking for information, where would you find what you're looking for? I don't know. But if I told you, remember that chart that I showed before, that these were actually structured in terms of focus areas, you could say, oh, okay, well, I'm interested in tailings, so I want to look at the purple ones, right? And I don't necessarily need to know about all the other ones. Or if I'm a reclamation person, I'm looking down here, all of that kind of thing. So okay, well, that gives me a little bit more sense, and it looks like you've kind of got a plan. But it really just says that these ones are all together, right? But if I do the next step and say, well, actually, they are linked together. And you say, wow, this guy's got his poop together. He really knows what he's doing, right? He's got a plan. I'm sure this was all thought out ahead of time, right? Which isn't the case, but that doesn't matter. The point is that when I go in now and I look and I say, well, I'm just a reclamation guy. I say, well, yeah, but you know what? You should probably look at some reports up here because they're linked, right? Or there's some information that connects those things. And now I say, okay, well, now I've got a better picture for how this is organized, but also how I can go about finding information. So why does it matter? If you think like a researcher, if that diagram is what you're looking for, right, then as a performer, you're saying, okay, I've got my project, but I got to be aware of what other people are doing, and I got to be part of the team and contributing and getting information back and forth, right? And it starts you to think about, well, I have some data, maybe Sally could use it or Fred could use it, and I wonder what he's got that I could use, that kind of thing. If you think like a user of that information, then that diagram, like I said, really helps me to say, okay, I'm interested in this core area, but they say that I should look at this report too. Well, I'll go look at that and see why there's some linkage, and that might lead me on to another one, right? And so it's quicker and easier to find the information. You can look at other places to look, but it also gives me a sense for what this program's all about, right? It's not just some words. I can see in a visual sense how this is structured, and that helps me understand, say when someone's giving a presentation or an overview, or there's something that comes out and I say, well, okay, now I get where this all fits in. And if you think like a funder, then you're looking and saying, well, these guys have a plan, right? They're not just a one-off kind of individual consultant report kind of thing. They're part of a big picture, and I can get in there and I can leverage some of the other work that's going on just by funding this particular project. So I think there's a lot of value in us thinking about how we tell people about what we're doing. And so what would I do if I was doing something like this? I took this picture from Mohammed Gamal Eldin in a presentation he did last year again at Alberta Innovates, and I thought it was really cool because it does exactly what I would have want people to do. I said, here's my program, here's the individual components and how they're linked. And then I was thinking, and then what should happen is every time someone in that program gives a presentation, that should be their first slide. And they should say, here's my project. Here's the overall program and how we're all integrated. Here's the puzzle piece that I fit into. And yes, when we do our projects, we talk to each other and we share information. So the audience has a sense right away of the context for your particular presentation. My experience in coming to these seminars, in particular the exit ones, I get why students want to talk just about them, because that's really what it should be about. But a lot of times you're left with saying, well, what's the background? What's the context? Is this part of a big program, right? And if you started with this, people would say, okay, I get it. And it wouldn't take a lot of time, but it would add a lot of value to the audience's perception of what's going on. And I think it would also reduce some questions, because people like me automatically stand up. And I think it also forces you to think. So, not to pick on someone, but there was a seminar here, and someone got a question about how the plots that they were working on were constructed, and they didn't know. They just went to work on the plots because that's what their job was. No, you need to know that, right? So that you appear like you know what you're talking about, and you do know what you're talking about, and you can start to think about how that's all integrated.